Everything that you see is neutral. There is no such thing as a meaning, but each one of us is here to create its own meaning. If we can actually master our minds, we can actually master our souls, maybe we can get rid of suffering and maybe we can reach a state of peace and enlightenment. What is the meaning of your life? I think I do agree with the existentialists that say that there is no inherent meaning in our lives, but that each person should be creating their own definition, their own meaning. Hello, my love. Welcome to another episode of Blisstopia podcast. I'm your host, Mercedes Castellani, and today we're going to talk about my biggest crush in terms of topics that we could ever cover, and that is life purpose. Today, we're going to dive into what actually is life purpose and how do we define this from a religious point of view, spiritual point of view, scientific point of view, philosophical point of view, and I will offer my own definition of life purpose for you. I really wanted to cover this topic because I think life purpose is literally the biggest question a human can ask themselves. This is literally the deepest question we can ask ourselves. Why are we here? What is the purpose of all of this? And we are not the first people on earth who have ever tried to find an answer to this question. There's been many people for centuries that have asked this deep question because you see, this is one of the deepest mysteries a human can try to solve. Why am I here? What's the purpose of all of this? What's the meaning of all of this? Why am I on this planet Earth? Humans across story, they came up with different responses to this deep question. Some people found the answer in religion, some people found the answer in spirituality, some people found the answer from a philosophical perspective, some people found an answer from a scientific perspective, some people didn't find an answer, some people found an answer from a very personal, individual perspective. So I want to really open the debate and bring all of these different points of view so that you can come up with your own definition of life purpose and also with your own life purpose. Why are you here? Why are you on this planet Earth? This is such a deep topic that I'm so passionate about, and I've been so deeply transformed by this question because it was when I started asking this question, why am I here? What's the meaning of all of this? Why am I on earth? What do I bring to the table? How can I serve? Why are we doing all of this? That is when my life was radically transformed because once I found the answers to those questions, I needed to shift many things, deep things in my life. So, first, let's go back to this definition of life purpose. And first, I want to offer you what religion is saying. So, what is the religious point of view when it comes to life purpose? And basically, what religions are bringing to the table and what they say is that the purpose in our lives is to serve, to worship, to connect with a bigger, higher power. You can call it God, you can call it Allah, you can call it different names. And the idea is that we come to earth to serve, to worship this entity, this higher power, and we want to have spiritual growth. And some of these religions believe in an afterlife or several afterlives, depending on which one you choose. So the idea here is while we are on this planet Earth, to serve, to worship this higher power, to really model the types of values that religion is, showcasing and trying to promote, and then also prepare for an afterlife if the religion actually believes in an afterlife. So if we take, for example, Christianity, what they say is that the life purpose of a good Christian is to serve God, to love other people, to be kind to other people, and to live a life that is modeled after Jesus. So we want to take some of those traits that Jesus had and we want to live a life in those terms. Now, the Islam, another religion, says that the purpose of a good Muslim should be to serve Allah and to live his or her life according to his will. What religion is saying is there is this God or these different kinds of gods, depending again on which religion you take, and you're going to spend your existence serving this God and also living according to what this God wants for you. So that is actually really nice in a way. If you actually do subscribe to a religion, it's actually very nice because they are giving you a direct sense of purpose. Your purpose is to serve this God or gods and to live according to this set of beliefs, according to this set of expectations that that religion has for their fellow members. So from a religious point of view is get to know your God or gods and live a life in a way that you make this God or gods proud of you, with the virtues, with the type of life that is expected from you. So that is one point of view. Some people subscribe to this point of view. So their life purpose is to be a very good Christian, a very good Muslim, a very good Jew, a very good name, whichever religion you want to put in there. So that is one point of view, the religious point of view. Now, the spiritual point of view that maybe we could actually put Buddhism in that case is that the purpose of our lives is to end all suffering and to live a life of peace and enlightenment, which is called nirvana in the case of Buddhism. So the purpose of this life is to master the human condition, I would say. The human condition inherently has a lot of suffering because there's death, there's sickness, there's death in ourselves, death in the people that we love, sickness in ourselves, sickness in the people that we love. And also our minds are playing tricks on us the whole time with anxiety, with self-sabotage, with all of these different trains of thoughts that are not necessarily useful and they bring a lot of suffering into our lives. So if we can actually master our minds, we can actually master our souls, maybe we can get rid of suffering and maybe we can reach a state of peace and enlightenment. So from a spiritual point of view, the purpose in life would be to actually reach these higher states and live and breathe in these higher states as often as possible until one day we eventually die. But there's a whole training. It's going to take us years and years and years and decades so that we can reach this level of enlightenment and true peace and contentment. So this is what spirituality says. The purpose in life is to live in these higher states of peace and enlightenment. Now, from a philosophical point of view, because philosophers have also tried to answer to this question, there's different schools of thoughts. So today I want to cover three that are directly linked to life purpose, which are the existentialists, the utilitarians, and the Stoics. So the existentialists, such as Sartre or Nietzsche, they believe or they argued that life has no meaning. There is no meaning. Everything that you see is neutral. There is no such thing as a meaning. But each one of us is here to create its own meaning. So when religion and spirituality say, this is the meaning is to be a good Christian, the meaning is to be a good Muslim, the meaning is to be a good Jew, the meaning is to feel these higher states, the existentialists say there is no meaning. It's up for you to create your own meaning, which is an interesting point of view. The utilitarians, on another hand, they say that the purpose in life is to maximize. So we really want to take the maximum profit of this life for ourselves and for others. So we want to maximize happiness and well-being for ourselves and for most people. So here we're trying to maximize the profit in a way. How we are having this existence, how do we squeeze the most out of it for us and for others? which is an interesting point of view as well. All of these points of view are absolutely interesting. And then I think what's even more interesting is how do we come up with our own definition of life purpose, considering all of these points of view. And then the Stoics, they argue that the purpose in life is to live in accordance to nature and reason. So basically, some of the philosophical schools, they absolutely loved and adored reason and logic. So this school says that we want to live our lives in a way that can actually cultivate the virtues of wisdom and courage. So we must show inner strength, a lot of wisdom, a lot of courage, a lot of reason. We must develop this inner strength from a mental point of view, from an emotional point of view. We must become the strongest version of ourselves. That is life purpose according to the Stoics. Now, from a scientific point of view, and we have to consider this one as well. We might agree or not. I don't necessarily agree with this one, but what the scientific point of view or the evolutionary point of view, kind of like the Darwin biological point of view says, is that our purpose in life is to survive. So basically, don't die and then reproduce. So you want to make sure that you're passing on your genes to the next generation. And the more genes you will pass to the next generation, the more successful is your life. Of course, and I hope that you're not just passing genes to the next generation mindlessly, but this is what the evolutionary point of view says. And yeah, deep down, I think some people do want to pass their genes, but not everybody wants to pass on their genes to the next generation. But we have to consider that this is a point of view. We might agree with it or not, but it is a point of view. Then some people define life purpose from a very personal point of view. So from an individual point of view, some people say the purpose in my life are my relationships and the love that I feel, whether that's friends, family, partner. Some people define the purpose in their lives in terms of their relationships. For example, maybe a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad might define their life purpose by saying, the reason in my life is to create these little beautiful creatures. And the reason in my life is to have amazing friendships and deep bonds within my family. That might be life purpose for some people. Some people think that life purpose is creating something meaningful. For example, creating a company that is taking away carbon dioxide so that we can actually change things in terms of global warming. That could be life purpose for some people. For other people, life purpose is contributing to something meaningful. Maybe we work at a big company that is doing something super important for humanity, and we feel like actually my work, my contribution is creating something meaningful in the world. For example, if you work for a company like Female Invest, which is helping women educate themselves in terms of finances. Maybe you are in the marketing team at Female Invest and you are contributing to something beautiful. It's a big company. You didn't create it, but you're actually contributing to something meaningful and amazing for the world. Some people think that their life purpose is linked to creating a better world. Maybe you are an activist, a climate activist, or a human rights activist, and your actions are actually contributing to a better world. Maybe you have a regular job and I don't know what, the post office, but you are an activist and you're actually supporting, you're fighting climate change or you're supporting human rights all over the world. And maybe creating a better world is your definition of life purpose. Some people think that life purpose is learning, growing, educating themselves. Imagine a professor at a very prestigious university. Maybe this person thinks that life purpose is learning as much as possible, teaching, sharing all of this wisdom, making sure that they grow intellectually, and then they can support other people in their intellectual growth. And maybe some other people think that the life purpose is to experience life, to really take and soak all the juice that they can from this experience that they have in life. And maybe that is their definition of life purpose. I want to taste the best dishes I can taste. I want to see the most beautiful landscapes I can see. I want to listen to the most amazing music. I just want to live this human experience in this human body to the fullest. And maybe that is the purpose. So, considering all of these points of view, the religious point of view, the spiritual point of view, the philosophical point of view, the scientific point of view, and the individual point of view, I want to give you my own definition of life purpose because this is what truly helped me make the changes that I did in my life. And this was actually the question that was in my soul a couple of years ago when I was still in my corporate job and I was like starting to really ask deep, 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 deep questions. And the question in my heart was, why am I doing all of this? What for? Why am I alive? Why do I work? What's the meaning of all of this? What for? What am I trying to create or achieve? Why? Why all of this? Why all of these emotions? Why all of this brain? Why all of this stress? Why? What is the bigger, deeper meaning of all of this? So, from my point of view, I am not a religious person, so I do not subscribe to the definitions that religion provides. I was born in a Catholic country, raised in a Catholic school by a Catholic family, the whole thing. But when I started thinking for myself when I was 15, I realized that those things didn't make sense for me specifically. So I do not subscribe to any religion. And the responses that Catholicism or Judaism or the Islam provides are not necessarily interesting for me personally. So all of those, for me, they're like out of the equation. The scientific or the biological point of view that says the life purpose is to pass on our genes, I find it too close to animals, to be honest. We're not here just to pass on our genes. We're here to pass on way more than that. We're here to pass on wisdom. We're here to pass on energy, emotions, maybe some genes, but that's not it. That's not the whole thing. So, my definition of life purpose is what is the meaning of your life? If you really stopped and you really, really went into this train of thought, why are you alive? What's the point of you being on this planet Earth at this time? What is the meaning of your life? What changes when you're here on this planet Earth? And in my case, the way I've defined it is what is the impact or the contribution that we bring to the table? So I see the meaning of our lives linked to the impact, to what changes on this planet because we've been here. What are we actually contributing? What is the service that we provide to the world? And this definition is still very broad because our contribution might be so different. Some people's contribution is creating amazing companies that are moving the needle in topics where we do need to move the needle, like sustainability or human rights or gender equality. Maybe our contribution, our impact is that we work first for those companies and we are creating a better world. Maybe our impact is that we're activists and we're supporting all of this change. Maybe our contribution is that we are creating, educating little human beings that are here to contribute to creating a better world just by being kind, loving, beautiful human beings. Maybe our contribution is to learn, to crunch the numbers, to analyze, and to then come up with conclusions and support the doers in doing what we do need to do. But first, we need to make sense of information. We need to analyze. We need to crunch numbers. We need to see trends. And once we have those conclusions, maybe we will take different decisions. So, in a sense, in the way I see life purpose, which is what is the meaning of your life? I think I do agree with the existentialists that say that there is no inherent meaning in our lives, but that each person should be creating their own definition, their own meaning. And I do agree with this. I think there is no set meaning, but we come here on earth with some talents, with some challenges, with things that are easier for us, with things that we know, and we create our own meaning. And in a sense, I do agree with utilitarians because they argue that our life purpose should be benefiting most people, ourselves and most people. So, in this sense, I do agree with them. I think that once we have been able to define our life purpose, because this life purpose to me is linked to our impact and our contribution to the world, I think that by definition, we are maximizing the well being of most people. So, in my case, the way I've defined my own life purpose is to be happy and to help other women be happier. If I put it in like really, really, really simple terms, my purpose is to be happy and make other women happier. And there is a bit of all of these different things. I want to experience life and I want to grow and I want to live life to the fullest and learn as much as possible and really enjoy my time on earth, literally enjoy every single day on earth. And I do not take any of those days for granted. And I am so happy to be alive, just so happy. And at the same time, I know that there's so many people out there suffering, and I know that suffering is optional. There might be pain, but then there's a layer that we choose, and suffering is optional. So I want to help remove that layer of suffering for other women. I want other women to be extremely happy with whatever happiness means to them. Happiness for one woman, maybe it's linked to her career. Maybe for another woman, it's linked to self love. Maybe for another woman, it's linked to finding love. Maybe for another woman, it's linked to enjoying life to the fullest. There can be so many definitions of happiness, but I do want to help other women really tap into happiness and live lives that are related to their own very individual definition of happiness. So that's the way I've defined my life purpose. And that's what motivates me so much. It literally sets me on fire. And since I've been able to create this definition for myself, be happier, be happy, and help other women be happier, I'm unstoppable. There is nothing that gets in my way, nothing, because I know how important this is. This is the meaning of my life. So, of course, I would wake up and do whatever it takes for this, whatever it takes to move the needle and make myself happy and make other women happier. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. This is a very, very deep topic. Again, I think putting words into what our life purpose is, it's literally the deepest question a human being can ask. And I sincerely hope that this episode was insightful for you, and that if you are starting to ask this question, what is the purpose in my life? Why am I here? What's the meaning of all of this? I want you to know that you're not alone. You're not crazy. I've been there as well, asking the exact same question, and I hope you find your answer. I sincerely hope you find your answer, because your life will take a whole new shift. The energy will be completely different. Your actions will be completely different, because now things make sense, and they make sense according to your definition, to your own life purpose. So I sincerely hope that you will find the answer to this. And I want to close this podcast episode sharing a quote from Nietzsche. And he said, "Without music, life would be a mistake." And I would actually like to change this and say, "Without purpose, life would be a mistake." I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. If you want to find your life purpose, book a discovery call. The link is in the show notes. I would love to help you figure this out for yourself. I will see you in the next episode. And in the meantime, in Blisstopia we trust.